So where is it that the avenues of creative imagination are going to lead us as we consider the energies perhaps of this week that, are sitting there waiting to unfold for us? Or perhaps there's a larger field of awareness that is right there at the precipice of seeking an aspect of awakening within each of us. I know within myself it exists. And I'm just going to try and, take appropriate steps here from my own perspective as to what that means to me. And in that, present for you an invitation to search your own souls for something that perhaps is a wee bit similar, but unique, because each of us has a unique version of the soul dance that we came to expand upon as we engage with one another in this exploration of what does it mean from a soul's perspective to engage in this life dance, from that first birthing moment, which really is only one more step along the way, to the point where it's time to transition. Take the step beyond death, that final curtain of this so-called physical dance that we have been doing. A couple of weeks ago, in a shamanic journey drum circle process, I was taken. I think that might be the best way to put this, on an adventure. And, part of me says, was I taken beyond the context of this physical life dance that I'm on? And something in me says, no, not really. The invitation was to discover aspects of this current soul journey that I am on that are ever present. There is a field, a soul field, that is always, always, always present and is attempting to allow an energy quotient to be perceived by us in the physical realm so that it can come through and be present in the here and now as an invitation to an enormous field of opportunity that we often are not told about. It's not part of the general learning process that we humans are told to pay attention to. Many things in the consideration that I do each week of what the perspectives to my soul level of awareness are attempting to invite me to share with you what is the celestial conversation that I can only present from my perspective, in the hopes that some aspects of that, ethereal conversation going on are attempting to touch a deep core heart process within you that is, knocking on the door, saying, is your soul alive and awake right now? Are there aspects of this celestial conversation that paying attention to will enhance the life dance process that we are about, from your perspective, from my perspective, in a way that could present something new that has not transpired before. The sun, at the end of last week, stepped across that line between Leo and Virgo. Get the right windows up here. And today, Sunday, was actually, as yesterday was becoming today, that the sun made that transition. So happy birthday to all you Virgos out there. Also happy birthday to that Virgo part that exists between each of us, within each of us. It's there. When the unfolding of the life process reaches any Virgoan moment, we receive an invitation. And the invitation is to format a structural context for how is it that I am going to be able to fit into a, should we call it a machine? A productive machine, the workaday world, if you will, in a way that I'm going to be able to utilize my mental capacities. This is a mercurial sign, after all, to be able to assemble things effectively enough that the potential for new meaning going forward is going to be enhanced. This is essential Virgo. How is it that, and what are the reasons why you and I have come together to fabricate an aspect of the reality dance in such fashion that what will evolve from it can be of benefit to more, to that experience that we each might discover is the reason why we did come together. Now, it doesn't always pan out as simply as that. A couple of images. One is the factory worker on a production line doing the same thing over and over and over again. This has a certain Virgoan quality to it as well. But you have to ask yourself, what is the attitude that production worker has and is placing into what he is doing? Here's a second consideration. I'm driving my car and I come to a toll bridge. I pull up to the window to give my resources to the person collecting. And as I look into the eyes of that collector, I can see the spark of divinity shining through and outward. There's an attitude there. In a repetitious process that is greeting each person coming through with a thank you for what it is that is a shared offering between them in that moment. Fleeting, yes, but in paying attention, I carry forward from that moment an essence of the divine experience that awakened in me and in he or she it was a forever moment. This land of Virgo, where that opportunity exists, is part of the energy that we have just gone into. On Monday, Mercury is going, because Mercury is moving, at what speed shall we say? Mercury, it's moving at 2 degrees a day, ripping along. And you can see it's at 28 degrees 19 minutes at 8 o'clock Sunday morning, which means tomorrow morning it's going to be at, you guessed it, 0 degrees of Virgo. Mercury, ruler of Virgo, coming home to Virgo. Picture, if you will, you've received an invitation to a new job. I could have gone anywhere, but we'll go to the new job. And you arrive at the appropriate time so that you're not late. Oh, no. We wouldn't want to have that. Not in our modern system of, what should we call it? Yes, chronos time. That linear click, 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 click of time unfolding. Anyway, you arrive at your new job. The supervisor or foreman or whatever person you need to get together with, you're directed to, and they point you in, to to where you need to go, explain what it is you need to do. And this could actually be anything, because the idea is to be receptive to the invitation of being a participant in a process. This is the land of Virgo. There are other people that will be as well in this process. These are your co-workers. These are, from a Virgoan point, these are those who you will, with any luck, develop a rapport with, so that what it is that is being processed or organized is in such a way that what is coming out the end as a product has been imbued effectively with a cooperative spirit in what it is that we have come together to offer as a, with any luck, meaningful context to what you require going forward in the life dance as something that has been cared for, something that has been appropriately delivered to you, with the idea that you will discover its usefulness. This is the land of Virgo. Mercury coming into Virgo on Monday this week brings an emphasis into that descriptive experience to make sure that a version or versions of what you have made can be effectively communicated so that it isn't just obscure. There's a meaningful context for why it is that you are doing or constructing, or your part in a process is transpiring, that you're carrying with you as part of the expression of your living essence in this moment. And it could be anything, Land of Virgo doesn't necessarily limit what that anything could be. But from a Virgoan perspective, the details of whatever that process or thing is relevant. Because Virgo, it gets into that detailed side, that detailed explanation, a detailed process of what is happening. And if enough camaraderie can be established between oneself and one's co-workers, the experience that transpires in whatever the situation is will move more smoothly. When I was in my earliest years of college, I got a job working at the Boeing 747 plant in Everett, Washington, in the mailroom. And it was a 3 shifts per day process because we were building those 747s so fast. And we had a crew that shifted on whatever shift we were on, from, doing it all night long, in the evening or in the morning. And there was a magnanimous energy that developed in our particular crew shift, that, we just functioned together, like snapping fingers. We were all in sync. We had, walls of box holes where all of the different mail that was coming in from other parts of the world needed to go to all these different departments of the 747 plant. And we would each have like a handful or a box full of stuff, and we would be, working around each other, shooting things into these boxes. And we could do this without very often colliding with one another, get the mail all sorted to where it's going to go, and then we would get our particular section that we had, climb into our little Datsun pickup truck, and go around the plant driving and delivering, the mail to these different departments. It was at this point, I was taking engineering at the community college because I've got a natural inclination to really see how things are put together. So I followed the thing, figured I'd be an engineer. Well, I was driving into these rooms of engineers in these enormous buildings, so big that you could almost feel the curvature of the earth in them, full of these seas of tables of engineers. And at that point I went, no, not. I may be able to see and work with things three-dimensionally in space, but, that particular lifestyle of an engineer version that was there being presented to me as I'm driving through the aisles of these engineers delivering things was like, no, it isn't active enough for me to be able to see. So, I eventually dropped out of that engineering program because I knew that really wasn't my calling. But this is part of that version of the Virgoan energy at work. And to me, the experience of engineering at that point, which I later became aware of, was just something that I knew how to do, and became a contractor, carpenter, builder, painter, whatever phase of building. I'm really good at it. I'm retired from that now, but I still have the capacity. But I want you to feel into that. Each of us in our life dance comes to those moments when that Virgoan side within us puts up, a version or several versions or of different opportunities to say, you could follow this or you could follow that, How does that sit with you? Do you feel in it that you might be able to grow, or is it going to hold you back from what it is that your soul knows that it needs to do? I'm giving you right there a demonstration of Mercury coming into the sign of Virgo, where it is at home. And I'm emphasizing it because this particular week, it's going to be in play in quite a unique fashion. If you look at this, Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius, Neptune, 3 degrees of Aries, and see these dotted lines along here going down toward the sun. This is an aspect called a Yod, Y-O-D, also termed a finger of God. Now a yod, finger of God, brings to focus the energy of the two planets that are sextile to one another, in this case Pluto and Neptune, transformational planets upon the sun. And as we go just a little bit forward in this week, you can kind of see, look, there's one of those quincunxes, 5/12ths of a circle. It's become solid because the sun is now at 2 degrees. If we go to Wednesday, oh, it's strong on Wednesday. That yod is intensely focused on that solar radiance in Virgo, that capacity we have to, churn thoughts around in our consciousness, attempting to find the best way to utilize that energy, is potently active on this Wednesday, which, by the way, is a mercurial day. And where is our Mercury? 2 degrees, 18 minutes, just 1 degree away from the sun. And we know the Mercury is moving at 2 degrees a day. So this particular yod has definitely got a mercurial flavor to it. And within that, 24-hour period between Wednesday and Thursday, Mercury is going to conjunct that sun, Gazimi, in the heart of that solar orb. And because Mercury is not retrograde, it's not between the sun and the earth. It's on the far side of the sun. It's still Kazemi. It's still taking that mercurial capacity to think, to really utilize the little gray cells in such fashion that a meaningful context, and Kazemi, the sun is providing to Mercury the opportunity to express something that is vibrantly alive in that moment, that carries a meaningful Virgoan context that, may perhaps spit out an answer to something that you've been, cogitating upon at length. And it just may show up right then in true mercurial fashion. I need to say something about this. Can you feel that mercurial energy there? That Virgoan capacity to say, and this is not just happening with you, this is happening with all of us. Because in reality, these celestial conversationalists around us are always, they're not talking just to a particular point on the planet, they're talking to the entirety of the planet, the core of the planet. That's where that energy is arriving to engage with all of us. This mercurial awakening, asking us, perhaps, what is it that we may want to consider at this time? And it would be of minor consequence to skip over this lightly, because this same signature is going to be involved in the upcoming lunar eclipse that's happening at the latter part of this week. I'd like to read you, as a, what should we say, a context to the energetic signature that 3, 4, 5 degrees of Virgo might represent from a level of awareness that we may not generally tune into, but I tune into it all the time. And these are the Sabian signatures for that particular aspect. This is for the 3 degrees of Virgo, where that Kazemi takes place, where the focus of the yod is transpiring. It reads, black and white children play together happily. Oh, if this could only be true on every instance. My own insert there. The keynote, overcoming of socio-cultural prejudices. There's a lot of ways I could take that. But reading onward, freedom from all forms, biases, idiosyncrasies of the particular culture and class in which one has been born and educated as a sine qua non of the consciousness truly on the path. The ideal of universal brotherhood underlies all great spiritual teachings, for they all are like branches of the one tree, man, in his divine state. This does not mean there are no racial differences, but rather that these differences have a functional value in terms of the whole organism of man and of the planet Earth. This symbolizes a basic technique which applies to all truly spiritual progress and is clearly stated. Every human being should be seen, approached, and warmly met as a child of God, or in less religious terms, as an exemplar of man. Such a status gives to every social and interpersonal group the character of brotherhood. I want you to sit with that. Feel the potential camaraderie of what that Virgo context has the capacity to awaken within any group that is focused on accomplishing something. This is the land of Virgo we're talking about here. I'm going to read the next degree of Virgo because as we go forward and get to Friday, where actually it's Thursday, Friday, depends on kind of like where you are on the planet as far as when this lunar eclipse takes place. Because the moon, what is the moon? Moon is moving at 12 and a half degrees a day. So within the Thursday, Friday window, the moon is going to oppose the sun, which is at that 4th degree of Virgo. The Sabian symbol for this 4th degree of Virgo reads, a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies. The keynote, the opening of new levels of consciousness. And further, in the first of this sequence of 5 symbols, we saw the individual seeking to bring out of everyday contacts a consciousness of significant form and meaning. Now, as the sequence ends, a further stage of realization is shown in its initial and relatively primitive character. The consciousness is gradually reaching beyond physical characteristics and becoming aware of energy processes. Example of the dynamism of forces which externalize themselves as life forms. The mind, in its objectivization and analytical character, is always tends to give name and form, nama and rupa in Sanskrit, to that which it contexts as energy processes. It images forth energy or feeling, relating it to more or less familiar experience. We call this imagination. I'll just bump this chart ahead one day. During that bump between Thursday and Friday, we had our lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse happened at 4 degrees of Pisces, which basically means also that 4th degree of Virgo. The Sabian symbol for that particular degree from the Piscean perspective, which is where the moon is, a church bazaar. How's that for a weird image? Keynote: the value of giving a spiritual or transcendent sanction to even the most commonplace interchanges between social persons and individual minds. I want you to remember back to that exchange that happened between me and the ticket collector, money collector, before that toll bridge. Something awakened in that moment that carries with me of the potential for magic that was transpiring in that exchange. Since this is the last of 5 symbols emphasizing the interaction between people constituting a social group, small or large, it brings in the element of religious sanctions. The purpose of any organized religion is primarily, I'm still reading that 4 degrees of Pisces, to meet the need of giving a more permanent significance to interpersonal relationships within the framework of a particular way of life and culture. It helps to keep the society whole by making it holy, at least in principle and ideal. It justifies human behavior by blessing it with a divine revelation of what is good and valuable. It idealizes biological and social needs by ritualizing them. Here on the note is a ritualized beneficence. It stresses the possibility of the presence of God in even the most material human activities. Do you remember at the solar eclipse that we had a couple of weeks ago, almost a couple of weeks ago? The intoxicated chickens dizzily flapping their wings, trying to fly at that 20 degree of Leo. All sequences involving eclipses tap us on the shoulder in an attempt to awaken us to the opportunity for change. Now, the change in this particular eclipse season was that the solar eclipse began as a south node solar eclipse. There are versions that have arrived from our past levels of awareness, south node, that were asking us at the solar eclipse to engage appropriately with how is it that what was may still be holding over us, something that is keeping us held back from what it is that destiny is asking us to wake up to. That is how that south node works. Things may appear to move more smoothly because it's old territory we've already gone over before from a south node perspective, so we don't really need to apply a lot of energy into accomplishing what is represented by that south node. And we're being asked to alter the trajectory forward with, perhaps escaping from that version of, chickens dizzily trying to learn how to fly in a drunken kind of state. Well, the destiny line, that north node lunar eclipse up there at 4 degrees of Pisces, is taking the idea of being in the potential of servitude, another term that often fits into the Virgoan life dance. And depending on how one plays that, the servitude can seem a little challenging, not exactly the most comfortable zone to be in. Well, the North Node lunar eclipse in that beginning part of Pisces is an invitation to be of service. A very different perspective than servitude, having to actually function underneath a particular organization that demands of us to follow a certain path or trajectory. Being of service is that spark in the eye of the toll collector on the bridge. Yes, I, as the toll collector, here in this booth, am still in a capacity of the expression of spirit in everything that I do, in each encounter I have with people utilizing this bridge. There's the opportunity to allow that soul energy to connect us in this life dance moment in a way that could happen no other way. So that lunar eclipse, did I already read that? Let me look. Yes, I already read that one. Sabian symbol wise. And on this Friday, as we're going through the ramifications of change, because that's what eclipses are about, and the footprint of the eclipse signature, it carries weight. It has the capacity for engaging an energy signature that can last up to 6 months. So this eclipse cycle that we're going through now, it may require of us, we're in the time of Virgo, a version of our analytical capacities to, from a South Node perspective, be willing to release factors that are holding us back, so that from a North Node perspective or destiny process, we might spiritually awaken to opportunities that we need to keep our antenna up so that we don't miss them. That in being of service to a higher cause, we awaken. We can only awaken within ourselves, because our job is not to awaken anybody else. They have to do that themselves. But through our awakening, we provide opportunity for others to recognize aspects in their soul that, from the soul field perspective, are waiting for that awakening process to come through and enhance the experience of what it means to be alive on planet Earth at this time. I'm going to finish this consideration for the week with a short poem from Rumi. Awake a while. It does not have to be forever. Just right now. Just one true moment of love can last for days, weeks, and months. So rest all your elaborate plans and practice and sacrifice them for just one touch of the divine. And be kind to your sleeping heart. Take it out into the vast fields of light and let it breathe again. Say to it, love, give me back my wings. Lift me up again. Lift me near. Say to the moon, say to the divine, take me up now, my beloved, take me to that wonderful dance you promised at the very beginning. That's all I got for this week. We have important things to do. This eclipse is an invitation to tuning back into the magic of every beginning. Thanks.